that makes all these trips with us everywhere the Ravens go. He goes along with Comcast Sportsnet and Comcast Sports Mid-Atlantic. You can follow his journey, and many do, on Twitter at Clifton Brown CSN. He's out there with Luke and chasing the Ravens around and trying to make heads or tails of the first place Ravens. We welcome Cliff Brown back onto the program. Been about a month, Cliff. Last time I got together with you, I think the purple sky was falling, right?
Yeah, if it was a month ago, it sure was. That 4-game losing streak had a lot of people thinking that the Ravens were done this year, but they bounced back, put together 2 wins, and more importantly, in first place in AFC North with the Steelers struggling, the Bengals struggling. So Ravens have destiny in their hands, and as you said, a really big game against a team with the best record in the NFL, the Cowboys, on Sunday. Should be interesting.
Cliff, it's hard to feel good about the Ravens given the offensive line situation, right? Like, we're out in the locker room on Wednesday, and there's Marshall Yanda over there, and he doesn't know what to say, and there's Alex Lewis in the boot cast, and there's Ronnie Stanley giving it a go and trying to get it through, but injuries are injuries, and this offensive line's been ravaged, and when it's all said and done, we're going to look back and say, I wonder what they could have been had they kept their O-line healthy this year. They certainly can still be division champs. Pittsburgh looks like they're a mess, especially on defense. Cincinnati looks to be a shell of itself. I mean, the Ravens still might win this division, but to beat the Patriots, to beat the Cowboys, to beat the Seahawks, to beat the good teams, the offensive line, they at least need to get the same 5 guys out there a couple of weeks in a row.
That could be true, Nestor, but I think to stay in the moment, the Ravens can't look at things that way. They do have a chance to get Alex Lewis back at some point late in the season, or if they were to make the playoffs. Yanda obviously is going to try to play with his injury, whether he'll be the Marshall Yanda that we're so familiar with, the 5-time Pro Bowler, or not, that remains to be seen. But the Ravens have to concentrate on making sure they get to the playoffs and being an offensive line that can at least run the football somewhat consistently and protect Joe Flacco. And, John Urschel, he's been a guy that was expected to be the starter, really coming to training camp before Lewis beat him out. So I think Urschel can handle filling in for Lewis. And then, at right guard, Vladimir DeCass or Ryan Jensen, I think obviously that's a step down from Marshall Yanda, but if the rest of the offensive line can play at a higher level, then I don't think there should be a glaring weakness there. So, yeah, the Ravens, I think there is a question whether they can run the football well enough with this offensive line, whether they can protect Joe Flacco well enough. But if they can, then certainly because of what's going on in the AFC North, they could make the playoffs. And then hopefully later in the season, maybe you would see a healthy Lewis back. And certainly Yanda, even at 75, 80%, is better than most offensive linemen.
Well, and this story this week's going to be about stopping Ezekiel Elliott and stopping this Dallas Cowboy team and this rookie quarterback that's been sensational. I've been talking to people in Dallas all week. The Ravens defense has been very, very formidable and kind of quietly, because when you lose 4 games in a row, no one wants to hear how good you're stopping the run. But this would be a week where stopping the run is going to give them a chance to win this football game on Sunday. I don't see this as an immovable mountain. I don't see this as a game they can't win on Sunday.
Well, certainly it's strength against strength when you talk about the Cowboys' running game against the Ravens' run defense. Ezekiel Elliott leads the NFL in rushing, and the Ravens are ranked first against the run and first overall defensively. So it's strength against strength. You have Brandon Williams, Michael Pierce, Timmy Jernigan. All 3 of those defensive linemen for the Ravens are having an excellent year. But I do believe the Cowboys have the best offensive line in football. Elliott's a guy that if they're opening holes for him, you can't stop him. And then as the game wears on, if you don't get that offensive line off the field, they start to wear teams down, and then Elliott really goes crazy because not only is he a fast guy, but he can make the first guy miss. So this is the biggest challenge the Ravens have had as far as stopping the run. But I do believe, with those 3 guys, they have a shot to do it. And if they can keep Elliott under 100 yards, then to me that gives them a chance to keep the Cowboys from having a big game offensively which could be enough to give the Ravens a chance to pull off the upset.
Cliff, we've seen the backside of the secondary get torched, especially in the Patriot game a couple of years ago when the Ravens were, quite frankly, good enough to win a Super Bowl. The back end has been so solid with Weddle there, and I don't know that Jimmy Smith's been given enough credit, and certainly as a first-round draft pick that's been in and out, and the Lee's Frank injury. And then there's Tavon Young. We've beaten Ozzie up a lot about draft picks and, guys not working out, and the Terrence Brookses and the Matt Elams and all that. But what they have right now is working pretty well, and the pass rush hasn't been as good as they'd like it to be. They might get Doomerville back this week. Suggs looked a little bit more like Suggs last week as well in Cleveland and Pittsburgh. The backside of this thing has been stout.
It has, and it's going to have to be for them to win in Dallas. I mean, Weddle has been everything the Ravens wanted and more as a free agent pickup. He was one of the bigger off-season moves that they made. Jimmy Smith, as you mentioned, he's been playing to me last 3 or 4 weeks back to the level that he was before that Liz Frank injury. Tavon Young, you mentioned him, done a tremendous job as a rookie corner, not just as a slot guy, as they hoped he would be, but also as an outside guy. But the Cowboys, they present problems. Des Bryant, one of the best wide receivers in football. Jason Witten, one of the best tight ends in football. They have playmakers. And Dak Prescott, the quarterback, obviously the offensive line protects him really well. The running game helps him a lot. But when he has to make a throw in a clutch situation, Prescott has made it. And his maturity for a rookie quarterback, I mean, he just seems to be a guy who you can't rattle. So this is all the way up and down, not only the front end of the Ravens defense, but the back end. This is probably the biggest challenge they faced all year. There's a reason why the Cowboys are 8-1 and won 8 straight. They're awfully good.
Well, and this is a strange week to be going to Dallas, right? I mean, when the schedule comes out, you're like, well, Dallas might be 4-4 by the time we get there. Tony Romo will be there, whatever. And instead, there's this really, unique, I would say, press conference on Tuesday with Tony Romo, and there's this 4th-round draft pick who's leading them into all of this, and they looked vulnerable in Pittsburgh on Sunday. They don't look like that Patriot team, another team that lost on Sunday night. Patriots lost on Sunday night, too. They don't feel invincible, and certainly it feels like there should have been more controversy and more of a mess when Dallas decided to make the switch. It was sort of a seamless sort of press conference. Not as much controversy as Dallas is usually known to stir up down there with Jerry, right?
Yeah, I think Romo did a great job with that press conference. That's an unusual thing for a player to do, to be that forthcoming about, how he felt about being now the backup quarterback, but yet giving his full support to Prescott. So I think that did a lot to diffuse any potential quarterback controversy down there in Dallas. Now, I do believe that this is a pretty good time for the Ravens to be playing the Cowboys. That was an emotional win the Cowboys had over the Steelers. The Cowboys faced the Redskins on Thanksgiving, just 4 days after this Ravens game. So I do believe that there is a possibility that the Cowboys, having won 8 straight, might not be as hyped up for this game as they were for the Pittsburgh road game and as they will be on Thanksgiving. So I think there's a lot of keys to this game, but one I haven't mentioned is the Ravens offensively are going to have to do some things. They're going to have to score some points. I think no matter how well the Ravens play defensively, the Cowboys are going to make some plays. They just have too much talent. They play at home. They're playing at home. Present too many problems. But if the Ravens can get up in the 20-point or more area, keep that offense off the field, convert drives into touchdowns and not settle for field goals, then they have a chance to win. But if the Ravens are going to be as sluggish as they have been offensively in some games early in the season, they have no chance. So we'll see if what they did in the second half against the Browns, where the Ravens finally began to click offensively, is because the Ravens are getting better offensively, or is it just because they were playing the Browns? We'll find out.
Well, you mentioned Weddle and in the offseason acquisition of him being a big deal. All the W's. I mean, Ben Watson would have been a factor, hasn't been. But Mike Wallace has been what they wanted, right, when they picked him up, and sort of the replacement or the antidote to Torrey Smith and Anquan Bolden going out the door. And Perryman at least is healthy and is out there running around. I think he's dropped the ball too much. Certainly he's had some confusion at various points. And it feels to me like Steve Smith, the games that he missed, he's getting stronger now and getting better. And even the amount of energy we've seen from him around the locker room feels like he feels a part of this thing and about to go on a run. First place at Thanksgiving means something to guys like Steve Smith and Mike Wallace that have been around this a little while.
No question. I would definitely love Wallace, just like Weddle, being a veteran who's given the Ravens perhaps even more than they expected. Wallace has been terrific all year. They're going to need him here down the stretch in November and December. And yes, Steve Smith, amazing player, come back from not only the Achilles, but now the sprained ankle, making plays again like he was never out of lineup. And yeah, Perriman, he could be the X factor. He finally scored his first NFL touchdown. I think he's playing with a little more confidence. The experience every game for him that he gets under his belt, to me, it will be helpful to him. And then another guy is Dennis Pitta. I mean, who would have thought in August that Dennis Pitta would be the Ravens' most reliable and healthiest tight end? I mean, to me, that's really one of the biggest surprises of the season, that with Watson going down, Gilmore being out of the lineup, Max Williams going down.
I mean, Pitta's going to catch 70 balls, Cliff. It's insane, right?
It is. It is. Coming off of two major hip injuries. Yeah, he's a candidate for comeback player of the year to me.
Well, and he might catch 10 on Sunday because this is the type of game and the type of road game where Flacco relies on a guy like Dennis Pitta. But they need more protection on Flacco. I don't think there's any doubt about that. But as much as we assess our problems here, Cliff, you've been at this a long time and watching the Steelers and the Bengals. It's not often those teams get out of the way. They look like they might not win anymore. I mean, it's inconceivable, sort of the fall of the AFC North. I guess inevitable. But these other teams, they're losing games every single week. They can't seem to win.
Yeah, I'm very surprised at the Steelers. I know that Roethlisberger's been out. That certainly affected them. And earlier in the year, Le'Veon Bell was out. But, yeah, the Steelers usually find ways to win, not lose. This year's team is coming up with ways to lose. The Bengals, some people definitely thought that they were going to take a step back before the season started, and those people were right. I think that they miss Hugh Jackson as offensive coordinator. I know they miss Mohamed Sanu and Marvin Jones. And, yeah, they've had a lot of, talented players, built that roster through the draft. And now that they've lost some of that talent and have lost Hugh Jackson, offensive coordinator, they seem like they have taken a step back, the Bengals. So the Ravens, though, still have the 2 games left with the Bengals, plus the 1 game left with the Steelers. And to me, that's going to ultimately determine the Ravens' fate. They cannot get swept by the Bengals this year as they have been the last 2 seasons. They need to win those head-to-head matchups, or at least win the majority of them in order to win the AFC North, I still believe. So, yeah, that's going to determine, I think, what happens to the Ravens. Those 3 games they have, 2 with the Bengals and 1 with the Steelers, and then 2 of them being on the road. The Ravens, they have a chance to handle their own business. But, if they let the Bengals and Steelers, beat them down the stretch, they probably don't get in.
Clifton Brown, it covers all things Ravens out at Owings Mills, just like we do. He's at Clifton Brown CSN out on Twitter, as well as at Comcast Sportsnet. I've been watching a lot of Caps and some Wizards here, so I'm seeing plenty of Cliff on my television screen as well as out at CSN online as well. Last thing for you, Cliff, have you been down to the Big Dome yet in Dallas, Jerry's World? I was there for the Super Bowl a couple years ago, but that's the only time I've been in there. I know a lot of people, and for a lot of our fans making the first trip down there, it's always exciting when you see a new place.
Yeah, I've been there. I think I've been there 3 times.
Wow.
It is the best stadium in the NFL to me. There's no question. The huge screen they have with crystal clear, picture, just the whole atmosphere there where, you walk around. In some places it's more like a party's going on rather than a football game. They really did a tremendous job with that stadium. I know it costs a heck of a lot of money, but you can see where the money was spent, and to me, that's the standard of all stadiums, what they've done down there. So, I think that, yeah, the Ravens, as you know, they've had nothing but success playing against the Cowboys in their history, and I know the Ravens will be pumped up for the game. So if they get off to a fast start and the Cowboys are a little flat, yeah, I agree with you that, this isn't a game where I just don't see how they could win. I do see a scenario where the Ravens could pull off this upset, but they're going to have to play well to do it and play well for 60 minutes.
It's going to be a great weekend down in Dallas. Cliff, I'm looking forward to seeing you down there in the Dirty D on Sunday. We'll be following you out on Twitter as well as at Comcast Sportsnet. Always enjoy our visits. Thanks for the time, pal.
Anytime, Nestor. Take care.
You got it. Cliff Brown joining us here from Comcast Sportsnet and Comcast Sports Mid-Atlantic. Clifton Brown, CSN, out on Twitter. You can find me in the Buy a Toyota Audio Vault 24 hours a day from anywhere in the world on your mobile device by downloading the TuneIn radio app. We come in crystal clear from Dallas to Fort Worth to Arlington and anywhere in between, including Plano and Waco and El Paso. And we'll be in Houston for the Super Bowl in 11 weeks. Wondering if the Ravens are going to be there. Who knows? As good a shot as anybody at this point. We'll be watching football all weekend. We'll be at Buffalo Wild Wings in Owings Mills on Monday night for the Oakland-Houston matchup as well. And I got a little soft spot for the Raiders right now after Jack Del Rio allowed us to come in and swab 44 of his players last Wednesday when we were out in the Bay Area. Big thanks to everybody who followed our journey and our friend Niels who came over from Germany. He saved my wife's life twice. We had a big week with Dirk Nowitzki, so getting back down to Dallas this week will be fun. Full coverage at WNST.net there for you. If there's any breaking news, it comes to you first on the WNST text service. That is brought to you by Coons Ford of Security Boulevard. And Dennis is here every Thursday driving you home from 3 until 5 with the SSV on WNST. Last but never least, Nasty at WNST.net reaches me. I'm on social media everywhere you are. Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Snapchat, Instagram. Streaming live on our Facebook and our YouTube. We are WNST.net AM 1570 and WNST Taos in Baltimore. And we never stop talking Baltimore sports.